We covered the entire Apple event 15 minutes after it went live.
Wait, 15 minutes?
Yeah, you can check. It's on Instagram. 15, 30 minutes. Within 15, 30 minutes, videos live.
What?
This is Varun. He's a builder, founder, and content creator that's using AI to create content at scale. Varun has developed the secret sauce to handle more than 1,000 videos every month, generating millions of views across multiple platforms by integrating AI into his workflows.
15 minutes from idea to distribution. We got to break this down.
So I'll tell you how it works, right? So
Can you explain exactly what you're doing on social media and exactly how you're using these tools?
I simply wasn't the most consistent content creator. So I decided, let me replace myself, just me speaking and my face and my hand movement with AI.
A lot of people have access to the tools that you have access to. What are the steps you took to fine tune? Let's talk about HeyGen first.
We fine-tuned so many HeyGen models to the point where we discarded this one secret that we figured out. Go to ChatGPT and ask it for the...
What do you see the future of editing be with AI coming in?
I think footage is going to be solved at some point. On the editing part, your medium of instruction will change. It'll become English. You still need to tell the computer what to do.
If someone comes to you as a content creator and looks for advice,
I don't know if I would actually give the advice for somebody to be a content creator to make money off, but I feel like what you guys are doing and what a lot of other content creators will do, which is...
You and your team have been successfully using artificial intelligence and technology to help you create content at scale. How have AI tools changed the way you and your team produce and distribute content? Varun, welcome to the Bad Decisions podcast.
Is this a bad decision?
Well, we shall find out by the end of the episode. And you have to tell us by the very end if it was a bad decision or not.
So I'm going to rate this on a decision scale. But thank you so much for having me. This has been a long time coming. I should have met you in Dubai the last time I was there.
Yes.
We couldn't make it. It was like I needed a few more hours.
No, the truth is Varun ditched us. Okay, we told him to meet us, and it was like
waiting.
We're waiting for hours, and Varun ditched us, and so we forced him to come on the podcast. So that's the truth to that story.
But next time I'm going to be there. Next time I'm going to be there for sure.
Do you have any plans actually on coming to Dubai anytime soon?
No, but we'll figure it out. Something comes up for the other, there might be a client there that I might end up coming. Like I need an excuse to be there.
Okay.
Or
we will make that happen.
By the end of this podcast, we become best friends and you come and visit us.
Or we come up with a business idea that you have to come to Dubai to discuss it.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm sure one of those three things is going to happen.
The chances are high. Well, Varun, first of all, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming here with us and making this bad decision to join the podcast. We have been wanting to speak with you for a very long time. We're big proponents of content creation, technology, and the advancements in technology. And we cover that a lot on our channel, but you seem to do exactly the same thing at scale and with such incredible quality. So first of all, we just want to say congratulations because we see your face on Instagram every single day. You and your team are doing such an incredible job at creating content and updating the world on the latest in technology and artificial intelligence, video games, for God's sake. And even when whatever happened with Lebanon recently, which was really sad, you guys covered it, but also the perspective you guys had on all the news is the craziest part about it. So first of all, congratulations on the crazy content that you guys are creating. But second of all, something that I'd like to talk about, and Farhad and I have been discussing, is how you and your team have been successfully using artificial intelligence and technology to help you create content at scale at amazing qualities. So I guess the first topic that we want to discuss today is the impact of AI on content creation. Varun, how have AI tools changed the way you and your team produce and distribute content? So
I'm actually a very inconsistent content creator as a person. Because I feel like life just, it's life. Like a lot of people, there's this one question that people used to ask me, right? Which is, if it's short form content, if it's like 1 minute a day, that's 7 minutes a week. Why can't you donate 7 minutes a week and do it consistently forever? But no one manages. Almost nobody puts out a video every single day, right? It's effort because it's context with sometimes you're traveling and you just don't have the time to get to the studio and shoot. It's almost like you have a tether to the studio and you can't go too far away from it. If you want to shoot content every day, plus you've got to come up with new topics, new ideas, you got to do the research yourself, you got to write yourself. It is very painful. So I think a couple of years ago, I realized from other content creators actually that the secret to winning on YouTube and Instagram are consistency. It sounds odd. You'd be like, wait, it shouldn't be quality of content. Actually, not really. It's consistency because you can't tell which video is going to go viral. Like today, we have some signals, but you can't tell. And you gain subscribers based on videos that do really well, right? So unless you try 30 shots, you don't like per month, you don't know which are going to enter the hoop, right? And which ones are actually going to add 20,000 subscribers to you this month. So it's a game of that. And the lesser number of shots on goal, the lower the likelihood that you have these videos that we don't call them viral, we call them super reach, which is views more than the size of the follow count that we have. So we said we need to be consistent. And I know this is the stupid way to say this, but I think AI really made us consistent. Because the minute you have an avatar, and we use HeyGen for the avatar, we fine-tuned so many HeyGen models to the point where we discarded so many of them, and then we finally kept the good ones. And I remember before HeyGen, we tried this tool called Wave to Lip. It's an open source model, kind of restitch lips on you to sync it to any audio you want. It wasn't great, but when we saw it, we were like, yo, in 1 year, I want to be using this to replace myself. I put a tweet about it. February 2023, I put out a tweet about this. This was 1.5 years ago. And we even tried a video on my Instagram with Wave to Lip. People could tell. We were like, well, we'll just wait. But when this happens, when this opportunity is here, we have to take advantage of it. And then when HeyGen came out, it's like, actually before HeyGen, Synthesia came out, but it didn't really allow us to make our own avatars. We tried other things, but it looked kind of fake. But HeyGen was great, especially with fine-tuning. We fine-tuned so many models. It was literally brute force till we got the right one, right? And today we know a lot of things, right? For example, if you're moving you can't move your head more than like 45 degrees on either side. A lot of things, right? You can't blink too much. You can't blink too little. You have to speak in a very excited tone. You got to like speak in an even more excited tone than normal because AI sort of brings you, down. But the hard part was still audio, because if you see some of the old videos we did that were automated, the audio was still bad. And we were using our own model at some point. Like the best model we found was RVC, which is retrieval voice cloning, where we were able to take somebody else's voice, like somebody in my team, and sort of replicate my voice. That was kind of good, but it still required effort from somebody else was tethered instead of me.
Yep.
Right? And it had to be sort of the same person, otherwise the tone is slightly different. But then 11 Labs came out with a pretty good model. And even now people struggle with 11 Labs because they haven't figured out this one secret that we've figured out. I'm sorry I'm clickbaiting everybody, but this is the one secret. It's a very simple thing that we learned with audio models, which is it wasn't getting all our words right. There was this one video where I said the word, but the AI model had to say the word devotee, right? Which is like this Indian thing where, you're a devotee of something else. Mm-hmm. And it just did it really badly. It said devotee or something like that. So we realized that it's all about coverage, right? It's all about, can you cover most of the used words in the English language? So we go to ChatGPT. It's very simple. It's a secret. Go to ChatGPT, and it's very simple. It's not really a secret. I don't see anyone talking about it, so I'll say it anyway. You go to ChatGPT and you ask it to output the list of all the commonly used words in the English language or all the commonly used words on YouTube. It'll send you a list. Just read them out and put them back into 11 Labs. That way you have coverage over 99% of what you'll say anyway. And for certain specific words, we sometimes do a top up on, we know that, okay, these are the 10 words outside of the range that you're going to be talking about in this week. So I do a quick, read out of those words for the team. And that's why the model is getting better over time.
It's genius. Wow. And for anybody who doesn't know, I'll just do a quick, brief explanation about 11 Labs. So 11 Labs is an AI tool that can generate text to audio. It can do voice cloning. Basically, it's a library that you can create voice through it. We tried it. We recreated Mr. Beast voice using 11 Labs. We tried Gandalf. We even tried our voices 1 year ago when it wasn't that great. But recently, I think it improved a lot. HeyGen is another AI tool which creates instant avatars. Basically, you can create your lifelike avatar which can speak on behalf of you.
Yes. And I think for context, Varun, because I know you're so excited, you went right into how you guys are using it. Can you explain exactly what you're doing on social media and exactly how you're using these tools for people that have never ever heard of these tools at all?
Sure. So what we do is, like I said, I just simply wasn't the most consistent content creator. So I decided, let me replace myself, the presenter part, just me speaking and my face and my hand movements and stuff with AI, which is what happened. And then we have an editing team. So the editing team actually edits it. We also have a scripting and research team that sort of does the scripting, does the research, where I give some of my inputs as well. And then it comes together as a nice little 1 minute video, and we can do it fast. We can do it in like 15 minutes after some news goes live. We covered the entire Apple event like 15 minutes after it went live.
Wait,
full video.
15 minutes?
Yeah, you can check. It's on Instagram. 15, 30 minutes, within 15, 30 minutes,
Wait a
videos
minute.
live.
Bro, wait, that is faster than any sort of media
Media.
speed I've ever seen in my life.
So you're scripting. So let's start with the idea, right? The idea, of course, you guys know Apple keynote is happening. There will be something to talk about.
There is some preparation.
Yes. So the scripting theme, are they using AI tools to generate the script?
Yeah, so I'll tell you how it works, right? So we get, let's say, 4 bullet points, right?
Okay.
We have an actual analyst going through the sort of video, the actual keynote, and saying, here are the 4 bullet points. Here are the things that we think are important from the keynote. Then I add my insights to this. So I add 2 more bullet points, right? Sometimes I send a voice note, sometimes I actually text. I'm like, hey, the implication of this is A, the implication of this is B. We take that entire thing and we ask AI to expand those bullet points, right, into cohesive script, right?
Teacher, may I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
in the middle of your instruction, have you trained ChatGPT or any AI to
No.
also understand your way of talking about points? Okay, so it's your own sort of opinions in the middle of those key points.
Yes. But what we have done and what we're working on, we've tried a couple of videos of this. In Claude, I wrote a book a long time ago. So we just fed that as context to Claude and we said, talk like this person. It's not great though. That's not great. It's not prime time yet, but I assume with one more leap in models, it is possible. We think with O1, when it allows us to feed in context, this should be solved. So I think, our entire job now is to give those 2 insights. This thing has already learned from my writing, which in the future we'll sort of put out. But for now, it's ChatGPT or Claude. And then we have a script that comes out. Then we push the script to 11 Labs, which has been trained on, my model, my data. And then it goes into HeyGen, it sort of produces it. Then the editors do the job manually.
The overlay of videos.
Overlay, the editing, subtitles, it's all AI assisted. Like all our B-roll, for example, we do Flux LoRa plus Kling. Right?
Wait, Flux, I know what Flux is. That's the image generation model that Grok is also using at this point, which creates these really photorealistic images. But you mentioned another thing I have not heard of.
Yeah, so Flux LoRa's are when you can train Flux on your images. So now I can prompt Flux and say, generate Varun as a cowboy. And it'll actually make me look like a cowboy. And then we put that in Kling, which is another image to video generator. We sometimes use Runway, so image to video. And that gives you B-roll with me in the B-roll. So if I talk about Mars, I can put me on Mars, like smelling the flowers. So that's B-roll. Okay? So that's B-roll. And then we have a subscription to Epidemic Music and a bunch of like sound services. So we're able to use sound, background music, all of it. We have we don't innovate too much on the background music. It's like sometimes we use the Valorant background music, for example, right? So we're like, anything that we feel is usable and relatable, we just use it. We put it all together. And it's 15 minutes. Like we have 7 editors on the team at this point, right? Like on my team. So that's for short form. And we put out a video every day. And over the last, when Ricardo made that video, not Ricardo, sorry, when RP and Roberto made that video, I think we were doing 25 million views a month. Now we're doing like close to 60 mil.
What?
Wow.
That video is not made a long time ago. That's just
like a few weeks ago, right? Yeah, a few weeks ago.
My Instagram just updated and showed me like 50 mil and YouTube were doing about 10 mil. We also do long form videos, and with long form, we recently we've always done it like with me in front of a camera and doing stuff because we feel like people will tell. But we made a video on Wukong.
Yes. And we were debating. Like, is it Varun or is not? It's not you.
And let me tell you something. As people who use Unreal Engine on a daily basis and create 3D avatars and know exactly what is real and what is not, we had a hard time figuring that shit out.
But it's not you, right?
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't. Yeah. But the hand gesture in that video was very complex. So at one point, I saw you were doing this.
That's the one that got us. Okay.
The reason you remember it, because that frame repeated twice. That was our bad.
No, and we paid a lot of attention. We did it. We watched the video, and then after 30 seconds, we were looking for it. I don't think anybody would realize that. Honestly, I don't think anybody would realize that.
So that's we did a long form Wukong. It did the best on our channel. It did like 300K views. So, AI avatars have brought me a lot of humility. I'm not really the useful person. It's the content that actually drives traction. I'm just like the medium. But it's incredible. Like being consistent has been awesome. And truly being consistent is the secret to being on YouTube or Instagram. Whether you're doing it with AI, whether you're doing it personally. By the way, AI avatars don't work for everybody else. Yeah. Right? Like it works for me because I'm in the AI space and it's okay if I use an AI avatar because people are like, okay, get it. But if let's say you're a finance creator and you start using AI, it kind of comes across as a little bit awkward until the model gets so good. But the minute people know, they get upset. With me, I'm breaking news, right? So it's like, hey, I want to know what happened at the iPhone event. This is the fastest source to get that information from. I'm doing what the media technically does, right? But doing it much, much faster on video. I don't think too many people are reading text anymore. So I found that opportunity in video and I think it's doing well.
I will say one thing. First of all, we got to break this down because this is a very important conversation here. And I think a lot of people watching and listening are hearing about this for the first time. I hope they are, at least, because it's very exciting. First of all, I want to say congrats on you and your team because you guys are doing a phenomenal job. Once again, this is something I've never seen or heard of before, and it's extremely smart. And we can talk about all the ethical problems and all that, and I'd love to discuss that. But what really matters to me is the value that you're giving people. So in that Wukong video, I don't care if it was you, if it was 10 other people, 20 other people, I'm getting the same value out of that video. And you're talking about something that I'm interested in. So as long as I can get that value as fast as possible in the best way possible as your audience, I think the job is done.
And for the Wukong video, it had your take and your perspective in it. I think that made it so valuable. I couldn't get the same news from other outlets because you were talking about why India doesn't have AAA games. So it was your perspective.
Yeah. So it's still like, I just wanted to shorten time from thought to output. And I think with AI avatars now, I'm just able to do thought, which actually frees my time up because I can read now books. Like I'm reading this book about how Singapore was built, right? It's called From Third World to First. It's by, the guy that built Singapore over decades and decades. And I get to read that and I get to compress it in a good video for people. By the way, here's an opinion. I think more people will watch AI generated content in the future than real content. Here's why. Okay. Even now they prefer AI generated content. They don't know why, but let me articulate it now that we actually have the evidence. When you do AI generated content, you always start from the script. Okay. When you do real content, it's you in front of a camera talking, mumbling, going off track sometimes, doing a lot of things that are not related to the video. And some people tend to like that, but most people, 90% of people just want you to be on point and run through everything. So when you write the script, you can be tight with the script. You can just be like, here are the 5 things that work, here are the 5 things that don't, whatever. You can just be very, very tight with the script. And because you're working at the script level, there's no there's no but, nothing. And then when you put that into HeyGen or any AI avatar generator, you don't have the burden of now, having footage to cut out. Like sometimes my editors used to cut out excess things that I used to say. So that Wukong video, if I'd done it in real life, would have been a 20-minute video. Because I would have ranted, I would have gone on tangents, directions, like I'm doing right now. But with AI, and because I had to write it, or because my team and me had to write it, and we have a really cool kid that's helping me right now, it gets compressed. So humans prefer compressed information with great graphics, great narrative, great storytelling, because people just don't have time. They don't have the attention span for a 20-minute video. So AI forces you to be tight because you're starting from a script. And therefore, more people watch AI-generated content because you're getting the point faster. So the same reason short-form content works even for information. Just rate of insights per second is higher.
Way higher. I mean, 15 minutes is still baffling to me. I cannot believe that because I started making content, if you remember, in the beginning of YouTube when Ali A was making Call of Duty videos and all that. And that was when you wanted to make one YouTube video, it would take you 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Right? And now you're saying 15 minutes from idea to basically distribution. It is
we have another secret. We have another secret.
Okay, all right. I like that. You were holding on to that, but now you decided to share it. Let's hear it.
Yeah, my wife runs the largest editing school in India now.
Oh.
So she trains about 2,000 editors a year. And therefore, we have unlimited
editors?
Yeah, 2,000 editors.
Crazy.
You should hire from them if you're interested.
Yes.
So I get access to a lot of really high quality editors who've already been pre-trained on good formats, already know what to do. So we don't mind having a slightly larger editing team, and we don't mind paying them reasonably well and sort of building our own sort of backup and so on and so forth. So I feel like that's a really big advantage because people struggle finding editors. And editors leave very often. There's churn and stuff like that. You got to run it like a company. You got to run it like a tight ship. It's very like a lot of people want to be remote editors and a lot of people are okay with hiring remote editors. Still, there's churn 3 months later. For those that don't know what churn means, people leaving. But when you have an office, that doesn't happen as often because you can actually give them a career path. You can actually give them guidance, so on and so forth. So it's that. That's our second secret, which is we have editors. So we're able to do this much faster at scale. I plan to hire another 4 or 5 editors. But here's the thing about long form, right? I also want to do like in-depth CG videos. Like we did one on the slipstream. I don't know if you saw that, right? Which was I did with Intel, and we had two cars. We had an Aston Martin and some other car, and I think the Ferrari in the video, right? That was CGI. The entire scene was CGI. It was just me in the scene with these two cars, and there we wanted to go push the boundary, right? We're like, yo, if we're automating content here, we should be doing really crazy videos on something. Like, for example, one of the things I want to work on is India 5 years in the future. And we actually want to do CG, right? We want to go shoot some places in India and we're like, what if there was a massive tower here, right? And it's not hard. Tracking is easy.
Yep.
The iPhone does it with LiDAR.
Yes.
So it's not hard for us to use. I don't know if you've seen tools like Simulon or if you've seen tools like Wonder Dynamics. It's easy to put robots in. So we're like, let's try like unlimited creativity. So in a way, short form content is allowing me to focus my energies on doing really good long form content. Right. So I don't want to do too much AI generated long form content, even if I can get more views, brand deals, whatever. I think it still has to be like very in depth content, even if the view count is lower. Right. So different games. I'm playing a totally different game on shorts and reels. I'm playing a totally different game on long form content. And yeah, I think the burden of not having views allows me to creatively sort of expand myself. So we use a lot of Blender for the CG stuff. We use a lot of Unreal Engine, although we've actually moved back to Blender, and I have some reasons for why, right?
Yes.
So I think that's what we're doing, and it's fun. And most people don't know that we actually run 8 channels.
8 channels.
8 channels.
Yeah, we actually have a lot more channels than just mine. Different faces, different names. There's no reason to link up all the channels together. Like they're all different brands. They're all under one banner. So the original channel sort of helped them grow, and then they help each other grow now. It's very easy for us to start a new channel as well. We produce over 1,000 videos a month because not just do we do those 8 channels, we also do several channels for customers. We have companies that work with us. Some of the largest unicorns in India, some of the big billion-dollar businesses outside of India. So yeah, we've built this as a solid business, and all the advantages now really play out. Having that video editing school that my wife has, automating AI content here, or the presenter here, I think has really given us advantages that we're sort of putting to play now. And yeah, my opinion is the best use case of AI is content. And you can't change my mind on it because I haven't seen examples outside of this where it's been so valuable for anybody. Yeah, and it makes money, right? So the minute you start working with Google and Intel and all the other cool clients, whether you're doing work for them or you're doing a brand deal with them or you're doing channels for them, or you're even doing plain vanilla AI services, right? And I'll talk a little bit about that as well. But yeah, it makes money. It does well.
That's amazing. I think I want to talk about the fine-tuning part because a lot of people have access to the tools that you have access to, but you are the one who managed to scale it to this size. 8 different channels. We didn't even know about the 8 channels. 1,000 videos that you mentioned is crazy. What are the steps you took to fine-tune? Let's talk about Hagen first and then 11 Labs later on. Is that something that you're working on constantly?
So look, fine-tuning is very simple, right? Like at least from what we did, it's a very ML engineers are going to hate me for this, but I feel like it's more of an art than anything. Like the way I fine tune, like I'll give you an example of how we fine tune my Flux LoRa, right? We just try a bunch of things until we get outputs that are close to what we want, and then we learn from it. Like the first time I learned this was when with Stable Diffusion, there was this equivalent to the LoRa's that you have now called Dream Booth, where you could make your own character like look like you. And there were a lot of settings. So we used a tool that time called Automatic 111. There's this, settings panel on Automatic 111 to train the model, right? Everything from how many epochs you're running this on to, what kind of precision you want to run this on. So I basically learned it by opening a new tab, Googling everything, seeing other people's results. There's like a ton of YouTube videos on best settings. Reddit, every day there was like a best settings for Dream Booth sort of thread, right? So I learned what each setting does, each parameter does, hyperparameter does, one by one. And then it becomes like an art. You train it, like for example, with the Flux LoRa that we made, which we actively use for thumbnails. The same thumbnail is made with the Flux LoRa, right? So I wear a mic on all the photos that we fed it. I've worn a mic in it. So it always generates a mic. I'm like, wait, no, I'm asking you to generate Varun, but yeah, there's still a mic in everyone.
That's the input.
Mike is part of Varun now.
Yeah. So we learned that, well, you need to keep the subject, whatever you want to replicate, in every kind of image, but you need to change everything else. Like in Dream Booth, if you have me in every image wearing this shirt, it will always generate the gray shirt. Right? So we have like, what is the subject we want to preserve? This, okay, fine. All of this we change in every photo.
Right.
Or we use different photos from different times, right? So it's that, but you don't want the face changing too much. So if you take photos from a 10-year period, and I look very young in the early photos and very old in the later photos, it doesn't look like me. It looks like some hybrid between a younger and older me. Yep. So we learned these things. So I said it's an art, and people hate me when I say that, but it's kind of like that. And you just try a lot. And yeah, we trained on consumer GPUs. We trained on my 4090. Sometimes we trained it on, online. And it's getting easier. Like my only advice to people who are fine tuning and you just care about the outputs and you don't really care about learning too much about it, I think it's mostly about trial and error. And over time, this is going to be one click. Because look, it's not rocket science for 11. I'm sure they've figured it out that you can just give them a synthetic script to read, covering most words. They're going to do it. It's not rocket science, right? Same with, fine tuning LoRa's, flux LoRa's, right? You can do it online now. And somebody will make it one click. So I'm like, you don't need to learn this. This is going to be one click. And they're going to tell you exactly what to do and you follow steps, right? HeyGen removed fine-tuned avatars recently. I don't know if they brought it back, but they have now this new thing called instant avatars. We still tend to use the fine-tuned avatars, but they've removed the guesswork out of it, right? And they just give you a bunch of ground rules that you use. But I think you get good at this. It's sort of like making a website, right? Like, or making anything. It's like taste. Anyone can make a video with Premiere Pro. It doesn't take you too long to learn it. But someone making a good video and a bad video is about taste.
Yeah.
And going to the right places and choosing between A and B. This is the style I want. This is the style I want. It boils down to pure taste. And I think we just knew exactly what we wanted. We wanted me sitting in front of a camera talking in exactly my voice. We had to just replicate this. And just so you know, this is not a new problem for us to create avatars. Many years before MetaHuman, we actually made an avatar of me in Unreal Engine, a live speaking avatar in Unreal Engine. I'll tell you what we did. So we modeled it. We manually modeled it. We used DAZ 3D actually at that time, right? We changed the face structure to sort of match, and then we put some clothes on, and then we exported from DAZ to sort of Unreal Engine because we wanted real time, and then we just lit it well in Unreal Engine. There is the live cam. I don't know what it's called now. The live cam, the AR kit to
live
where the blend shapes are sort of transferred over. And then I was just speaking, and then what we did with the body is, neck and below, we sort of made it run a Mixamo animation of just talking, right, on loop. And I did a live stream like that. It was still my voice, so I was always looking for a way to sort of replace myself. You can find this video from my YouTube from like 4-5 years ago, right? This is before MetaHuman launched. So we did that. And after MetaHuman, there were ways to do photo scans of your face, like the photogrammetry equivalent of your face into this thing. There's still some tools to do that where it gets a point cloud and then sort of puts it in. We did that. We didn't like the outputs. And then, sometime later, we saw a way to live. We're like, we can't fool people with a 3D avatar. It's hard. Fool is the wrong word, but we can't sort of pretend like it's me. So it's better to do this because people don't like Uncanny Valley and below.
Absolutely.
If I put 3D avatar on, on your feed, you'll just be like some cartoon shit.
Yeah.
And you move on.
Yeah.
Right. So it had to be real to gain real benefits for me. And I think we've crossed the Uncanny Valley.
Yes. And listen, I do want to add to what you just said. First of all, a couple of things that you covered. One, every technology in the early days, there's so many things you have to learn that will eventually disappear and become much easier to use. So I agree with you. I think, especially with AI, there's a lot of, when you go to Conf UI, there's so many nodes and so many settings that will eventually become a lot more user friendly. So yes, you can wait until it's easier, but then if you're trying to be competitive and stay on the front lines, then you have to learn these stuff now, which is why we're talking about this with you today. But going back to your next point, you've been waiting for this avatar thing for a very long time, I can see. So that's why you're so early into it, because you've been trying to do it for such a long fucking time, and it finally happened, and you managed to do it through a completely different method. I mean, DAZ 3D, modeling, texturing, UV unwrapping, animating is nothing compared to what you can do with HeyGen and create content in 15 minutes. But more so, I do want to touch on the fact that a lot of businesses have also been looking for this approach. So many people have contacted us to make their metahumans and then run the animation, but that almost never really works unless they're willing to invest a huge amount of budget, because animating the metahumans every single time will take a lot of time, and it will require the same person usually to come and talk. But now with HeyGen and 11 Labs, this new approach is completely different and it's completely changed the game. So one thing that was interesting to me about your approach is you mentioned about the script generation, the ideas, and the HeyGen avatar, the voice. All of those seem to be a lot more automated now, whereas the editing part seems to be the most manual, and you mentioned that yourself. Your wife having that school of editors and you guys being in contact with some of the top editors, what do you see the future of editing be with AI coming in, the AI assisted workflows? I mean, right now, Premiere
to
Pro,
video,
Premiere Pro and DaVinci Resolve is there, and these are amazing softwares, right? I'm an editor myself. I love editing videos, but at the same time, if there are new workflows that will make editing much easier, do we need to use all those buttons? Again, I'm just comparing MetaHumans versus HeyGen, right? A completely new approach to making avatars, and it's more lifelike than a MetaHuman can be because it is actually you. Will we see something like that with editing itself, that manual approach?
So my thoughts on this are a little bit nuanced, right? I feel like there are two parts to a video. If you want to edit a video or make a movie or make anything, right? One is the footage, the base footage. And I feel HeyGen solves the base footage. Because if you see the base footage as is, you'll see it's not perfect. Right? There's issues. Sometimes I'm saying things, but my hands, sometimes I'm pausing, but my hands are still moving. It looks weird. But we edit it cleverly to remove those parts. It still requires effort, right? I think footage is going to be solved at some point. Right now, we can do it for a few seconds, like the Flux LoRa plus runways of the world are not bad. And I feel that's just going to get better. So the footage part is probably going to be solved. Consistency is still a problem. Like if you take two different runway outputs from the same image that I've sent, or like from two sequences of that, scene, it doesn't look like it flows very easily. And maybe that's a short-term problem, maybe that's a long-term problem, I don't know. But I feel like it feels reasonable to say that footage generation is going to be solved at some point or the other. I know this because we're trying to work on a project called Zero, where I always wanted to do one take on philosophy, right? I love, like, long form, I really want to do tech philosophy. Even though I feel like it won't get too many views, I feel like if I'm already pulling views on short form, might as well experiment on long form, right?
Yeah.
So for that, we really needed something like this to come out. So we waited almost a year. I've already written the story. It's a year ago. I have the Google Doc with me, and I told my team the minute, we have accurate text to video, at least for 1.5 seconds, because we're really inspired on that particular video by this channel called Melody Sheep. I don't know if you've seen Melody Sheep.
I haven't.
He does this crazy, it's all about planets, and it gives you this feeling of awe when you watch his videos, right? So we wanted to replicate some of that and still have me in it and still ground it to be human. The video is based on Max Tegmark's book. It's called Our Mathematical Universe. And then I want to flow in from that book to another book on philosophy by Douglas Hofstadter. It's called I Am a Strange Loop. It's a very trippy video. It's supposed to be a very trippy video. We knew we couldn't do it without solid text to vid and solid, vid to vid, and then solid, image to vid. So I think footage will be solved, and we need it for this project, so we'll keep trying. On the editing part, I think it's unlikely, at least in the short term, because your medium of instruction will change. It'll become English. Look, for any of these tasks like coding and even editing to some extent, it'll become like English. You still need to tell the computer what to do. You'll tell it. So I can go and I can look at a video and I can be like, well, at 30 seconds, chop this off. Okay. At 45 seconds, add like a nice banner that flows in from the top to bottom. At 60 seconds, do this. At 70 seconds, do this. But there are other parts, right? Like subtitling, it's going to be automatic, right? It's already automatic. There's certain things like B-roll, which is going to be 100% automatic. It's again part of footage. But I feel like maybe editing will change to just telling the thing exactly what you want, like describing it to the extreme T. And I feel like then you have to go frame by frame and make sure it got the right thing. You still have to watch the video and be like, well, everything was good, but at second 53, I didn't like the transition. I want a different transition. So you just tell it and you edit like that. I feel like someone reasonably experienced with Premiere Pro can easily switch over to that form of editing. But we'll find it more convenient to go back to Premiere Pro because you can, again, now say if you want to move something from one place to another, you can just draw a spline, right? Like from place A to place B. So I feel like you'll just find it faster, like to go edit by yourself. And even if it changes, it's going to change to I speak English and now it edits, which for people like me, I can do it, right? I can speak and edit. But then I feel like for people like creators who are really busy, it still makes sense to have an editor and be like, you speak and you have that creative taste, you tell it what you want. So it might reduce the number of editors in the world, but you're still like hiring for taste. You're still hiring for somebody who knows what you like. You're still hiring for somebody who doesn't make you look like an idiot in front of camera or cuts things completely out of context. You need somebody who knows the narrative and wants to set that narrative. So when we hire editors, we're hiring almost like people who can be editors, but also could potentially manage editors. Right? If it gets automated tomorrow, we want them to be able to play one level up. But it's going to take a while, right? It's going to take several years for it to be English. The other approach is through something like a LAM, right? The thing that Rabbit came out with, where they said it's a large action model. I don't know where Rabbit is right now, but the idea, if it worked, would be interesting, which is teach a computer to use the keyboard and the mouse, and then teach a computer to use Premiere Pro. So it has access to everything that's in Premiere Pro, right? So you say, hey, I want you to remove this part of the footage. It will go, it will use the blade tool, cut those two parts, remove it. You can train a model like that, right? I just feel like when that happens, you will still need somebody telling it exactly what to do. And I don't have the time for that. Like I know from my time perspective, and I know from your time perspective as well, you don't have like hours, especially 1,000 videos, right? Producing 1,000 videos. Just do not have the time to sit on 1,000 videos and tell them what to do. So I will still have a team for it. So maybe less editors, but definitely you still need editors who have that taste, creativity, understand the tool. Because if it gets it wrong, you need to be like, no, you use the blade tool wrong. Yeah. Or no, you need to use this plugin for the lens flare.
Yes.
Whatever, right? Like I'm saying, you need to have enough context to know what to do. And it's the same thing with engineering, right? Code might die. You might speak in the English language to the computer, but you still need somebody to know what they're doing, right? If you're building an app. And more than that, you also need somebody who understands the product clear, why something would work for end consumers or not. And I think that piece is very, very important. So nuanced answer. There's no, is editing going to be automated or not? I feel like some parts will be automated. Yes, some parts won't. But yeah, we'll still hire people.
And I do want to add to what you said, because you said it beautifully. When I meant by automating, I don't mean like click a button and then the editing is done and you don't need any editors anymore. It's more about the editors who are editing. They have a much easier time editing what they are working on. So I'll give you an example. Me and Farad suck at drawing. We're working on a Fortnite map at the moment, and usually you have to go to a concept artist and then try to convey your idea to them. And that timeline will take a lot of time. And not a lot of companies have concept designers, right? Unless you're using them on a weekly basis. So for me and Farah right now, going to ChatGPT, which is even better than Midjourney now, because I get to talk to a model, tell them what I want my map to look like, and it will spit out images in 10 seconds. And I can get new ideas that I didn't even have by just talking to the model. So all these things on ChatGPT, I imagine, can be integrated into Premiere Pro or DaVinci Resolve when you're editing, when you're adding in footages to get ideas that you didn't even have before. So it makes editing better, more creative, easier in the long run. Plus, I do want to talk about the LAM thing, because I had no idea about LAM. You mentioned something like that the other day. Farah was like, why can't an AI just learn from our tutorials how to use Unreal Engine 5, and then we tell it what to do and create the scenes we wanted to create?
Just go through our tutorials. 20 episodes. I'm sure you're going to learn everything. Then you can make everything for us after that.
Yeah. So I think it's possible. Like, I feel like agents, the entire goal with agents is this. How do you teach it to use a computer? By the way, they did this a long time ago, right? With, in the early days, without a thought process, if you just gave a computer a keyboard and a mouse, going back to machine learning, right? And you said, let's use reinforcement learning. The computer never gets there. Even with millions and millions of iterations, it just will never learn how to use Premiere Pro. But the minute you give it a chain of thought, the minute you allow it to think, reason the steps through, and then build that out, it's a little bit better. So you needed something like O1 to do agents, right? GPT-O1 to do agents. And I feel like now that we have that, but sometimes, the reasoning and chain of thought is what happens behind the scenes. The reasoning is what you expand it, you can sort of see it. I feel like it still gets it wrong very often. So it still hallucinates even the reasoning of the thing. Pretty exciting to see how that plays out, but we are ready. If something like that comes out, happy to use it. If something that doesn't come out, happy to play the old way. You just need to, like, what I tend to do is I try to try all the new models. I tend to read the new papers that come out. I tend to try the most experimental models. You get an idea of what the future is going to be like. And then we're like, if this gets better, we should start using this in our workflow. And we want to be the earliest to use any new tool in our workflow. We're like, we will do this live in production. Like Simulon, live in production, we used it in one of our videos, right? 1 second. So we want to be those people that sort of bring you the earliest previews of all this new tech, especially in audio, video, text. And honestly, AI really just solves audio, video, text, right? Like, and now using computers and stuff. So yeah, I feel like show and tell is amazing, and it's awesome to be a creator where you get to show and tell, and then also speak about it.
100%. And now you have a team and you have access to all these tools. If someone comes to you as a content creator and looks for advice, what is the first tool you ask them to use?
Well, I don't think it starts with tools. I think creating content is this question of, do you want to do it seriously? Because it's actually pretty risky to be a content creator seriously. Like doing 8 channels is even riskier, right? It's the craziest risk ever. But it's kind of scary. You don't know when it's going to die, right? You don't know when you're going to have a bad month or whatever. There's n number of issues that could happen, right? So I feel like as a person, I don't know if I would actually give the advice for somebody to be a content creator to make money off of it. But I feel like what you guys are doing and what a lot of other content creators will do, right? Which is you create content to bring you a few more leads, to be slightly more discovered. And if you get big during that period, if you go crazy massive during that period, then great. But don't start with that expectation. So I never started with that expectation. My wife didn't start with that expectation. We'll create content, more people will know us. And then maybe, we'll get some more B2B deals or something like that. But you make money when it gets to scale, yes, but you never plan for that. And honestly, it was just me being lazy, saying I don't want to shoot content every day, so how can I automate it? So you need to really just focus on having a business or having something to sell, and then doing content as a way to generate leads. Otherwise, it burns you out. Because till you get to like 200, 300K, you don't make any money being a content creator, especially in India where it's kind of saturated as well, right? At least 100K to make any money, right? As a content creator, it's like doing a branded post. So I feel like people just give up. It's too easy to give up. You're at 50K, you're not making money. You're like, fine, let me just give up, right? So you need something to keep you going. And the minute you realize it brings you leads to your business, it is better. And one thing I realized is it can bring you a lot of leads. Like the difference between you having like 20,000 subscribers and getting maybe 2 leads a month versus 700,000 subscribers and getting 50 times that is actually a very real thing. You can get hundreds of leads a month saying, can we do something cool together? Sometimes they don't have clear ideas. Sometimes they have very clear ideas. So the number of opportunities grows, and that's how we built a company. To be honest, we just got more people reaching out to us saying, can you do this? Can you do that? I said, cool, we'll do it. Yeah, so I feel like the first advice I would give is, don't expect anything from it to a new creator. And second thing is, from a tool perspective, I'd be like, get an editor. Like people think I'm saying this because I'm biased or whatever, but it's not really that. I feel like there's still content creators today who edit their own videos. And I'm like, do you know what a monumental disservice that is to you and even the team you get tomorrow? Because what they need you to do is focus on making that channel big, or go out and crack B2B partnerships or whatever, and hand off the editing role to somebody you're also creating a job in the process. It saves your time, and your time becomes very, very important at scale, because you have so many inbound opportunities. You have to evaluate them. You have to be like, should I do the one with NVIDIA, or should I do the one with something else? Like that becomes important, right? So it's better to hand off to an edit team so you have the time and freedom to think about scale. Otherwise, if you're editing, you can't really think about scale and how the channel grows. There's a difference between working in the channel and on the channel. I don't know if that makes sense. It's better to work on the channel and think strategy and be like, how does this scale 6 months from now? How does it scale a year from now? What do we need to automate it? And you need somebody with free time and free energy to read, learn, talk to other people. Because there are lots of people. One thing I learned in the last 2 years is there are lots of people with secrets. There are lots of people who know stuff where if you just sat down with them, you'd learn more in the conversation and you'd pick up, you'd find the secret to actually doing well. But they will never say it publicly because either they get canceled for saying it, or they're just like, what's the incentive for me to say this publicly? Right? And nobody knows them. For example, there's a guy who sells blankets, right? Who makes millions of dollars a year. And he's just like, here are my 10 secrets. Easy. Why aren't you all doing this? You have so much distribution. Why aren't you selling blankets? I'm like, that's not really our thing, but interesting insights. I could apply this to something else. So yeah, it's mostly that, I guess.
No, I agree with you. I think what's really interesting for me and Farad is, based on your response, we used to watch this guy. I'm sure a lot of people probably know him, Casey Neistat. He was one of the biggest YouTubers. Now, he's a very unique case of someone who loves the editing process so much so that he never wanted to hire anybody to do it because he wanted that part to be done by himself. He was a storyteller and his goal was storytelling on a daily basis. So if you're a creator or an aspiring creator watching and listening, and that's your goal, then I guess that's where you can just keep doing the editing and everything yourself. But I guess what Varun was referring to and what we're trying to talk about is more about people who are trying to scale the business, grow the business. They have other interests, and those interests are being hindered or prevented because they have to spend a lot of time on what can be done by other people or now be automated in the process. So again, just going back to your workflow, it's crazy how you are looking at this. Your perspective is incredible. I do want to talk about the ethical point of view as well, because in one of your own videos, you were talking about the time 100 people when it comes to the most influential in terms of artificial intelligence. And there was a Bollywood actor there. I forgot his name, but he has been against the use of AI for using his liking or his voice. Now, there's people like that, a lot of people like that who are against AI, against,
He's not against AI. He's against
the misuse of AI. Let's put it that way. And then there's people like us who are, using AI. We're gladly feeding in our information, our liking, our faces to AI. I want to know your thoughts on this whole thing. I'm sure your audience has their own point of view. They're commenting on your videos all the time. You probably talk to a lot of people who have different opinions. Where do you stand here? Because clearly, just like us, you're gladly testing out and experimenting these technologies.
Giving permission and consent to all these models.
Agree to all of these. We do the same thing. We're so excited about it.
I'm reading for Hagen. Yes, you can use anything you want. My voice, my face, my audio.
So I have a line. The line is, if you deepfake somebody else or if you clone somebody else's audio, that can sometimes be a problem. And maybe a few years ago, we've done that, some of that, right? Like just to experiment, because the models weren't that good back then. It wasn't believable. So, and a lot of Indians are shy. So my team would always take a celebrity and, try cloning their voice or whatever, because they're just like, I don't want to use my own voice. But I think the line is you can't clone somebody else's voice or somebody else's face without their permission. It's as simple as that. But that's my line. I feel like the legal line is not going to be that across the world, even though there's right now people have different opinions and thoughts, because it falls in the same line as caricatures. In a newspaper, I can make a caricature of celebrity and it's okay, because they're a public figure, right? So I feel like AI models are sort of the same, but we let the legal system, sort of comment on that. Where my line and the other side of the line is, it's okay to deepfake yourself or clone your own voice model. It's fine. Yeah. Like, and some people, like there was this guy, and I got really pissed. There was this guy who was like in the comments, like, you should tell the world that this video is AI generated, otherwise it's causing people harm. I was like, yo, number one, this video is not fully AI generated. 7 seconds of this video has a presentation with me in it. That's the only part that's AI generated. Everything else has real, tangible human effort. The editing is manual human effort, right? I'm only there for 7 seconds. Don't give me that much importance. And plus, it's my own voice. It's my own face. What do you want me to do? Come there and stand and do the exact same thing? It's the exact same thing. And plus, if most people think there's no effort done in that, I spent 30 years of my life building a real world brand. I spent 31, actually, I'm 31. So I spent 31 years of my life building a real world brand. I spent 31 years of my life honing the voice that I have today, which is an attribute of me. I spent 31 years creating videos, right? So my hand movements, the way I talk, the animated nature of who I am, it's all captured in the bottle. But I made it what it is in 30 years. A lot of people without that personality, and you'll find them at 40 and they don't have that personality. So I'm not taking too much credit for the personality I built. My environment shaped me into that. But that's still work that took a lot of time that we captured in a very quick form through these models. So it's a snapshot of me that wouldn't have worked if it wasn't me, right? And the other people who do AI-generated content, the outputs are like, it feels like a robotic zombie, right? So I'm like, credit me for the amount of time, energy, and work I've put in actually making this, getting this to this point. And then, I'm just automating myself. Like, I don't think there's any harm if I'm anyway going to be sitting in front of the screen reading the same script. If there's a model doing it, who cares? Right? That's my opinion on it. But my hard line is we don't deepfake anybody else anymore. We don't do any audio of anybody else anymore without their consent. Because we have a subsidiary of Aeos, the company I run, Aeos, called Aeos Labs, where we also do AI services for companies. We work with Amazon Prime, we work with Netflix, where sometimes we make trailers where we put you inside a trailer with an actor. But we don't do that without the actor's permission. And of course, there's Amazon Prime and Netflix involved, so they have to get permission. It's a big deal for them. So we do stuff like that. And I think with consent, everything is fine. So that's my line. It's a very nuanced line, but today people are like either pro AI, anti AI. I'm like, that's so stupid. I'm like, everything is nuanced.
Yeah.
It's
gray.
like saying,
it's not white or black at all.
correct. It's like saying, oh, are you pro-nuclear or anti-nuclear? I'm like, yeah, if you use nuclear as a bomb and drop it on people's head, it's bad. But if you use nuclear for power,
For energy,
it's not bad.
Yeah.
So everything's nuanced, and I feel like social media has stripped the nuance out of people. 1-minute videos have made people either do this or this all the time for everything. They're just used to a like or dislike. And I think it's also done something to people's inhibitions, right? Like people just comment whatever comes to their head, right? And they don't think it through, and then they don't realize people take decisions on those comments.
Yeah.
Especially politicians and stuff, they actually take decisions on those comments. So they're ruining society by just commenting the first thing that comes into their head without realizing what the second order effect of something is, right? Like banning nuclear. It just sounds like a bad word because of Chernobyl or whatever, and then you made that decision and then you're going backward in time. It's not as bad as it was.
Yeah.
And those were accidents. You can't anyway, you get what I'm saying.
And another important aspect is the amount of time and effort you put into fine-tuning these models, creating the avatar multiple times, trying different tools, 11 Labs, the other AI tools. So you spend a lot of time researching. The outcome is that 7 seconds. But the effort is all the time that you put to fine-tune these models, find the new tools. We have done a lot of R&D in everything that we do. And doing R&D a lot of times lead to a dead end. There is nothing at the end. You try for 3 days, you get nothing out of it. You have to try 2 or 3 different software to get the result that you want. So it's not just looking at that 7 seconds, it's looking at all the time that you have spent on the entire process.
Yeah, I guess it is that. I just feel like sometimes those comments don't mean well, in the sense when people say, oh, you're creating AI generated content, you're harming society. I'm like, no.
No, bro.
Right?
Well,
So-
eventually you're going to get harming nature, global warming. You're going to get all of that in the comments.
Oh, you're using GPUs.
But the thing is, the reason why I also say it's gray is because a lot of those people commenting anything negative about AI, they don't even know they're using it already. I mean, technically anybody buying the new iPhone series will be using AI. It's like integrated into it. And we're
Filters.
eventually, sorry?
Every filter you've ever used.
Yeah.
I mean, not every filter, but many filters.
Many of them, right? And there's a lot of AI in our life already. It's just people pick one out and then they call AI bad just for that one. So I completely agree with you. I do believe it's nuanced. And I think this is going to be an ongoing discussion as AI develops really rapidly. And there's going to be companies that do it ethically and companies that won't, because at the end of the day, it is a capitalist market, or everybody's just trying to make profit at the end of the day, because there are shareholders involved, and that's when it gets really nuanced. But the point is that I think, as you mentioned, as long as you're not using other people's work or other people's faces and voices to try to trick people, then that is fine. And I do know people who are doing that today. So on social media, you do see a lot of deep fakes of people.
I want to talk about a video that you did. And
Sure.
you talked about a developer doesn't care about storytelling and design, and an artist doesn't care how their ideas are executed. First of all, are you a developer or an artist? And second, how does one solve this problem?
So I'm a little bit of both. I feel like the minute you do any sort of game dev, you guys have done a lot of Unreal Engine.
Yeah.
Where do you put yourself? When you use blueprints. So for example, if you use blueprints, right, you're doing object-oriented programming. I studied object-oriented programming in college, right? I studied computer science for 4 years. I built up my first business was a recruitment platform where we built it on Ruby on Rails. So I actually transitioned from being, I don't like using the word transition. I still do a lot of engineering, right? Like I still have an engineer's brain. I feel like these are all arbitrary things that we have created for ourselves to study things that, okay, this is engineering, this is content. If you come to our studio, we have these giant LED screens where it's just, the backgrounds are beautiful, right? Because it's an LED screen, it's not green screen. So it actually emits light. So you have the light wrap effect on you. So you look good, like you're actually part of the scene. That's technology. That's hardware. And the images we put on that hardware are generated by Ideogram or Midjourney or Flux, right? So, but the end output is a video. Like when Disney has Imagineering, right? Where they do these little robots. They're eventually doing it to be in the next Star Wars movie or whatever, right? Or in their amusement parks. But are they a tech company? Are they a content company? Are they an art company? I don't like any of these distinctions. And that's why if you ask me of all the things I've ever done in life, what's my most favorite? It's game dev. I love game dev. I built this demo many years ago called Mumbai Mein Hadsa. It's about this incident that happened in Mumbai. I want to make a very, very short game, something that you can finish in 10 minutes, right? And tells you a story. And you can play the game. It's on itch. Just search for Mumbai Mein Hadsa. You can play it. Very recently, a year ago, we made this game called Overpowered, the card game. We just want to make a card game for fun. Not very commercially successful because we never really intended them to be like, money making, whatever. It was just like we'll give back to the community, get our hands a little bit. Because how can you talk about game dev without shipping things, right? Um, so that's why we made them, but I enjoy that. Getting the assets ready, doing the mocap if necessary, combining the two, and then writing code to make sure that there's some events that are triggering things that happen in the game. I love it. It's the most fun thing ever, right? So, but I never go there thinking, oh, I'm either an artist or an engineer. I'm just like, this is what I do. And even today, like people don't know what to call me. They're like, well, you also run a company with people. Are you a founder? Are you like a manager? Are you like an artist? I'm like, actually, I don't know. I don't care. Right? Call me whatever you want because here's the thing, right? It's derogatory on both sides. Artists say, oh, bro, you're an engineer. You're like disrupting art. This is not true art. You go sit there in front of the camera and speak. You're spoiling this freedom of expression, all sorts of things. Engineer on the other side, like, you don't know anything about engineering, blah, 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 because the researchers doing stuff. I'm like, the synthetic thing that we came out with, that came from technically a process very much like research, right? So, but forget about the research part, right? They're like, you're not a real engineer, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I've built an insane amount of stuff, right? But anyway, both sides, hey, like you become like this pariah where you're like, no side likes you or no side relates to you because they feel like the engineering side is better and you have a little bit of art, so you're an outsider. It becomes a tribal thing. Yeah. An engineer in India or actually across the world be like, I'm part of this tribe called software engineer. The mighty tribe, we've always made the most money. The artists are like, oh, I'm part of this tribe. This is how I'm supposed to be. This is how I'm supposed to dress. Here's my flag. I'm like, I don't know what tribe I'm part of. I'm just like, I just want to create cool stuff, right? And I feel like it should never be a limiter whether you're an engineer or artist to create cool stuff. But also, what we have realized is because there's so little competition when you stop thinking about tribes and you're doing this thing where you're combining two really weird sides. And we will always use the engineering side to get an advantage. We will always use the art side to make things cooler than the engineering side would have done it by themselves. I feel like there's very little competition. And when there's very little competition, money flows towards you. And then you become a capital allocator. So it's weird, but I've started calling myself internally somebody who allocates time and capital. The most boring side, right? But I do want to create even more awesome work. Like I feel like, some people will go on their entire lives knowing me only as an artist. Some people will go on, especially people who met me 3-4 years ago, would go on knowing me only as an engineer. And some people who probably work with us know me as a manager, whatever. It's okay. And if you look at...
You have a... Wait, sorry, please continue.
And if you look at Elon Musk, right? There are a lot of people who are like, oh, this guy just hires people and makes them work. Or another guy will be like, oh, he's the guy that designs everything and goes to space. It's so nuanced. Yeah. Right? It would have been like 1,000 decisions and, whatever. People make their own decisions. People will make their own assumptions over time. And I think that's okay.
One thing that is clear, you work really hard. I mean, it's pretty much obvious from the stuff that we see on social media, but also speaking with you. We also figured out after inviting you to the podcast that you have a crazy time per day that you work in. Like the timeline of your day starts at 2 p.m. till 5 a.m., right? It's a crazy night owl-like schedule. Why did you decide to take on something so intensely different than what usually people would be taking? I usually earlier morning, sleep earlier, but then you go into this crazy hours every single day.
I don't know. Like, I just feel like I got stuck at this weird sleep cycle and it never ends. I do like the quiet of the night. I do like, I don't like the mornings. I feel they're noisy. There's too many people moving around. There's cars, there's traffic. The night is just better. Right? Short answer. I just like the night.
Less distractions.
Less distractions, less people, asking for things. It's just better in the night. I don't know. I love the night.
And when he goes to US, no jet lag.
Yeah, so
zero jet lag.
Zero jet lag. He's with the US time every single day.
And
Yeah.
you do read a lot of books as well. Is there any books that you would recommend for people who are interested in starting startups or generally content creation or anything inspiring to you that you've read in the past 1 or 2 years?
Okay, so we've added a lot of employees over the last 1 year, right? Because we're also doing content for others. We're also doing AI services. Business has done well in the last year or so. And it's almost started becoming like company culture management. So I'm reading this book called Inside Apple. It's about how Apple's culture was built. I'm reading this book called From Third World to First. It was about how Singapore was built. I told you guys about this before the pod. Um, I'm reading these books. I'm reading. It takes ultimately boils down to how you work with other human beings and the rules and the things you set. Right. For example, yeah, I'm a big fan of Girard's mimetic desires. Right, which is everything that we've ever desired in life. It's because somebody else desired it. Right, except for basics like your food, water, shelter. Everything else, like you want a Lambo, you want a Lambo because other people find it cool. Right, so it's stuff like that. So really understanding how human psychology works requires time, effort, requires you unraveling what you think about humans already in your brain and be like, actually we're social creatures driven by simple rewards, and just accepting that requires you to destroy your ego and requires you to have the humility. You're just a monkey running around, like I'm just a monkey running around, sort of playing monkey games with other monkeys, right, which is awesome if you're okay with it, which is not awesome for people who think they're the center of the world. So uh, books really gave me that, because when you read from somebody who's like 40 or 50 and done a lot of stuff, they come to the same conclusion. Especially people who have accomplished a lot of things in their life, they come to the same conclusion, that ultimately we're just like this animal here with very little control over things, and it's about how we work well with other animals and setting rules and also setting rewards, like a punishment reward system for ourselves. Yeah, it's mostly that. And the minute you say that on Twitter or Instagram, you get canceled because people are like, no, life's about get super rich by 25 and travel all the world. And I'm like, yeah, that's one life, and yes, that's still part of a head up. Like if you traveled every day, like I now travel like 3 times a week, not for fun, but even interestingly, I hate travel. I'm just like, there's too much of
I just want to be
this.
home.
Yeah, I just want to be home, right? So everything changes depending on what you have. If you have too much of something, you want something else, right? The billionaire who's extremely wealthy, but probably is doesn't have health, will really want health, right? So you always want what you don't have, and social media is actually this bottle that captures things that, like, it's basically that, right? It's a bottle, like a transparent bottle that captures what everyone wants to have but doesn't, right? And it's that. Like even in my content, it's kind of that, right? When I make a video about the future, India in 5 years in the future, and I show technology, something I want but I don't have. It's the same thing that some 20-year-old saying, "Oh, here's $1 million, here's my Lamborghini." It's the same thing. It's something that they want but they don't have, so they're projecting that future. I'm just doing it slightly differently with what I want my surroundings to be like. They're doing it with what they want their status and their lifestyle to be like. It's still the same thing. So social media is not reality. It's like an extended version of people's expectations. So, but when you read a lot, you realize this is not new. This has happened forever. This happened 50 years ago in the era of, you know, post-colonial, how the world recovered, when suddenly there used to be this leader, there used to be this authoritarian figure. Leader is the wrong word, authoritarian figure. And that figure left. And then you have to now figure things out yourself. And then you realize all these expectations that you had with them, now you have to reset those expectations with a new set of people, reform it. And it's the same like when with the era of kings and queens, right? So like the only reason you'd want to have the structure of, you only become a king if you have noble blood, is the minute you remove the criteria of you need to have noble blood to be a king, then all the subjects decide they want to be king, and they fight, and they creates insane amount of chaos, and they all try to be king. So you have to make it familial, and even in families, like even if it's a noble blood thing, brothers, like two young brothers, or sorry, two sons or siblings of a king will always fight for the throne. Imagine that
Yeah.
fighting among millions of people. So you want to
Chaotic.
limit the fighting to a specific criteria, and the best criteria is like royal blood. So you're reducing the amount of damage created. So it's stuff like that. And when you read all of that, you're like, this still happens today, because our human brains have not evolved from 200,000 years ago. So every story from the past captures a little bit of how I would interact with other people. And, some of the ground rules have been the same. Like when you fight with somebody, I'm sure you guys fought with each other and fought with other
Me,
people.
Farah?
No, bro.
never, bro.
How
What are you
can
talking
say
about?
that?
What are you
Oh
talking
my
about?
God.
It's gonna happen right out. It's gonna happen right after this podcast. So when
What
you
did you
guys,
say?
I don't know what he's talking about.
so when you guys fight, half the time it's not even about the topic that you're fighting about. It's like that underlying emotion that you'd have, right? So for example, you might be arguing about how something is implemented, but you would have been angry with Farad because he said something about you in front of somebody else that you
Yeah.
didn't like how he referred to you. Whatever. It could
This
be
is
stuff
turning
like
to a
that.
Yeah,
therapy
it's therapy
session.
session for me
Yes,
and Farah.
Varun, you're right. Help. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So people don't like hearing that actually now that the company has scaled, 90% of my job is no longer hacking. It's enabling new hackers in the team and the company.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
it's by preventing all these stupid things from bubbling up so people can focus on work.
So now that you're running a company, and we talked about how AI impacted your content creation journey, but now that you're running company, managing multiple people, has AI helped you in that way as well?
Yeah, I don't think we'd be able to. The unit economics of my company would not make sense without AI. Without, when we do 1,000 videos, we would not be profitable if we didn't have AI. Like everything from B-roll to background music to, it's not just AI, but it's also other tools that have now existed. I don't think it would be possible. The presenter, we replace presenters in a lot of channels that we do for other people. So I think it just not be possible without AI. Even AI services, like we wouldn't be able to sell AI services without AI, like Gen AI sort of really kicking into high gear. So we're really thankful to everyone that makes like folks like Llama that make open models. We're really thankful to this ecosystem existing. We're, like a lot of people saying terrible things about Stable Diffusion. I wouldn't be here without Stable Diffusion. Without all that early experimentation, without just having it on Comfy UI and having that my screen open in front of me, just trying a bunch of random stuff, I wouldn't be here. All the researchers who've contributed. So uh, no chance this would happen pre-AI era.
Wow. What do you think about AI in coding for software engineers? How do you think it would shift the way they work?
So right now, if you look at the software engineers in the company, they're using Claude. Claude is generating code. They still have quite a bit of input. I think all software engineers are going to move one level up when the agents work. The agents are not great yet. We built this tool called AutoCode Pro to try out agents before anyone knew what they were. This is a long time ago, before the Devons of the world. But I think with reasoning, with chain of thought behind the scenes, I think the agents are getting slightly better. And at some point, the agents are going to do the work, but you still need somebody on top sort of telling it what to do because the CEO does not, like, I don't believe in the idea of one person unicorn because you can really scale. And when you scale, when you have so many things coming in, you need people to absorb some of that, make those executive decisions because you don't have the time yourself and you want some freedom to think about the next steps. So I think agents will solve some of code, but you will move to a higher level role of describing exactly what you want and using English to sort of create software. But I also feel like software is getting commoditized for a slightly different reason. We learned this with our last business, which is when you're building software and there are lots of other people building similar software, the features don't matter anymore. Like if you can build something and somebody else can build something in a week, like then what's your moat? Right. And then we realized the hard way it's about distribution, getting in front of the user, which kind of dictated why we're doing what we're doing now. But yeah, there's diminishing value in adding new things. And there were also a lot of APIs and SDKs that were appearing on the market that sort of added new features to us. So to give you an example, we solved real-time audio calls over 8 months in my last business. We took 8 months to solve that. And then there's another business that came out that sort of just gave you one SDK to sort of solve it. And then a few months later, there were like 5 of them. And they're all competing for price. And we're like, why did we build this? We spent so much money. We spent so much engineering time. We should just been able to predict that this would be out. And this time we didn't make that mistake. We could have spent the time, energy, and money sort of figuring out how to solve, lip stitching. And a lot of other people have done that. But we're like, let's just wait for somebody else to do it. Let's capture the value. And there's a difference between value creation and value capture. And we had created a lot of value in our last business. We weren't managing to we weren't able to capture the value. So this time we were like, we just want to play the value capture mode for as long as we can. And then once we have enough money, then we'll start creating brand new types of value through R&D, right? Which is what we're doing now. So yeah, it's that. So I think software, you'll go one level up, but I feel like software in general is not as useful as it was in the past because anyone can create it. So it's commoditized. So I'm not really confident about software jobs in the future in a way. Or I feel like there are going to be less number of jobs. And in India, we've seen some of those effects. I don't think it's AI related though. I just think it's like the zero interest phenomenon era is gone where people are trying random new stuff with like unclear benefits, and they want to go back. And that's why, in a crisis, weirdly, businesses spend more on marketing than product development.
Why would you say that?
Because think about it, right? Like, let's say you're a company, let's say you're a car dealership, okay? Or let's say, forget a car dealership. Let's say you're a company that sells something, and you have two choices. You have a product that works, okay, that can make you more revenue if you advertised it better, or you build a new product where you're not sure if it works. There's unclear ROI. You don't know if tomorrow the product's actually going to work, make you money. What would you do in a crisis? You have $1 million to spend. Would you take a risk and build a new product, stop advertising the first one? Or would you just say, I already have a product that works. It's not the most efficient. It's probably not the best product, but if I spend $1 million in advertising, I can make that 2 mil. What would you do? You choose the first one. So we have seen, especially during periods of competition, especially during periods of lots of, like funding crunches, people focus on their core products and spend more on advertising and getting it to the market. That's the disciplined way to do things, actually. So I think we are doing better as a content company now because it falls cleanly under the department that people will spend on when there's a crisis. And we see, especially with content, when you're creating content for a company, it's like, it's organic. So you know that the spends are slightly high in the early days, but if the channel works, your spends are lower in the later days. You want organic distribution. So people go after organic distribution, just right place, right time, I guess. We also got a little bit lucky because we just followed this AI curve to the point where Mark Zuckerberg once said this. He's like, don't follow the local maxima. Like just because you got one idea, don't go double down on it. We built this tool called Alpha CTR to solve thumbnails. We could have doubled down on it. We could have said, hey, we're going to be the best AI thumbnail tool. But we're like, no. Good idea, but let's keep checking. Let's keep seeing the surface of the wall for where the highest value here is. Alpha CTR and a bunch of other apps we built, they're doing well. We got more than 1 million users on them. But we're like, this is going to die at some point, right? Or this is not where the end value is. The guy who uses this to make content is going to make the most value. So we should be the person, taking advantage and making the most value. Yeah.
Wow.
So right now you're looking at the products and services that are out there that are providing that are solving a problem, and you use those to provide value. But then eventually, as you're experimenting, you would like to solve problems yourself. I imagine.
It's replacement. More than anything, it's replacement, right? For example, face swapping in the early days, we used to use other tools. Now we're sort of building our own model for face swapping. It's just like, we're not doing much except just capturing, like, there was a company in India, I'm not going to tell you their name, but they started with printing, then they realized there's a business in ink, then they realized there's a business in publishing, then they realized there's a business if you're publishing, then there's a business in, schools, if you're publishing anyway. So stuff like that. It's just value chain after value chain, picking up new stuff. And it comes from experimentation, because until you experiment, you don't know if it works or not. Right? So we run a lot of experiments. We fail on like 8 or 10 things we do. You're only hearing of the successes. There are lots of things we've tried that have not worked. And we just scrap it quietly and we're like, this is part of the game.
How do you handle failure? At what point you say that, oh, this doesn't work, let's go to the next thing?
It's actually very quick. The cool part about having distribution is I can tell you right after putting out a post, within 30 minutes from the website activity or whatever we're selling activity or how the comments are, I can tell you whether this is something viable or not. It sounds odd.
So that's how you're testing your ideas then?
Yeah, we just put out a video. We see what audiences think. Like, for example, let me talk about content first. We know people don't like content about robotics. And people will not buy robots unless it solved like a lot of issues. They wouldn't buy like simple robots because we've tried that a few times. Content, we've tried some experiments. They don't care. There's no engagement on it. It's not an interest area for people. It's not hot yet. Games as well, right? Like games, we know there's no market, right? You talk about AAA game in India, a lot of people get upset, this, that. The minute you put a price tag on it, people leave, right? We have a free demo that people can play, nobody plays it, right? So
interesting.
So stuff like that. And with businesses, if you have a landing page, you make, video, put it on all your channels, and we have a lot of channels. We'll know very quickly if it works or not. It's mostly that. It's like distribution is really valuable. Once you have distribution, you can test things, you can hire people because you just put up a hiring post, people join you. You're able to get new leads and new business. I mean, I don't know why for so many years of my life, I thought content creators were idiots when I was much younger. And I thought, hey, it's talking on screen or whatever. I just didn't realize how valuable it is.
You have a great ecosystem of try and error using all of your channels. You basically can have an idea and then just try it immediately. That's priceless.
Yeah. I mean, think about the math, right? Like some of you've probably done this in the past. You buy a domain, make a landing page,
Yeah.
put it up, put a Stripe thing on it if it's a service, actually build the product if necessary, build an MVP of the product. We can do it all super quick. And the better AI gets, we can do it even faster. Like I want to go make an MVP in like I want agents to get to the point where I can make an MVP in no time, make a video about it. Even if the product fails, it's okay because we have whatever. We'll have like at least 500,000 people see it and at least 20, 30,000 people try it. We'll know immediately if it works. Just don't price for this thing because you set up the wrong expectations. If you price something and you're killing it, then it's not cool. But yeah, as long as you set expectations of the audience that this is a trial, they're okay with it. But the audience is completely okay if you tell them this is just a trial and I'm just figuring things out.
Clearly, a lot of people get their source of news from you. Where do you get your source of news?
Twitter, Reddit's become like horrible now. So we don't get any unbiased news from Reddit. It's all biased. But Twitter, sometimes we look at research papers, archive, a bunch of different places that we get our news from. Sometimes it's other people's YouTube channels. Sometimes there'll be a YouTube channel where they do a deep dive on. Like I was watching this deep dive on EACC, right, which is effective acceleration. And there were lots of things for and against it. And I was like, should I make a video about this? My own video, but topic, like my thoughts on this, because people want to hear my thoughts on that topic. So sometimes it could be that. Sometimes it could be, a lot of Twitter noise around something. So in a way, we bucket content in different places. Like sometimes it's Twitter import export in a way.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes it's paper import export. I mean, I'm simplifying what we do. It's a lot of effort. You still have to do inside. But we need to look for interesting sources. Sometimes my own opinion. Sometimes just like, I have thoughts. I'll make a video about this. So it's mostly that. Sometimes it's reactions to stuff that have happened on Instagram. We have a very diverse, I can't tell you next week what content we'll be doing because a lot of it is time sensitive.
How far ahead do you plan for the content?
Because we are able to make videos in 15, 30 minutes, not very far.
Oh.
Right. So not very far. We have an interesting idea today. It can be done today.
Crazy.
Which is incredible.
That is a new way of looking at things. I've worked in companies where you have 2 weeks worth of content in advance, but I guess for you everything is so time sensitive, and the fact that you guys can do it so quickly now. Do you apply that same method to the companies you're working with? Because I understand for other companies there's that delay of you guys reviewing things with them and also them understanding the technology and how fast you guys work. How does that relationship work with the companies?
So with external companies, they love us. Like in the sense that they often just give us the steering wheel after a couple of months. They're like, this is working, just you do you. Right? And there's only a problem if we put up something that they don't like, but we've never done that. Not even once. Right? So I think it's good. My dream is to take that services company and make it a pure play product company at some point in life. Right? And I think it's possible. Right? Every year with AI, with every new advance, it's possible. And even if you don't manage to make it a full product company, even if you have a little bit of services, that's okay. Like Salesforce does have a lot of services, right? Even in the product, even though they're a product company. So we just want to make sure that we're able to do it very lean, very efficiently, and that should be good enough.
I love that. Varun, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Honestly, learned a lot about what you do and how you and your team have managed to create content at scale, but with quality, which is something that is unheard of, especially about the times that you're talking about, the speed. And we're looking forward to see what you guys create. We're very interesting in the way you approach not just leading the team, but also looking at how you want to manage different problems in the world using the technologies that you learn about. So we're very excited to see what you create. We cannot wait to see everything.
Absolutely. In fact, I actually want to hear a little bit about you guys, right? I'm sure
of course.
you're doing a lot of stuff on 3D. What's the business behind the scenes? I'm sure there's a business behind the scenes.
Oh yeah, 100%. Bad Decisions is twofold. One is the content machine that we create tutorial series. This is the podcast that we're doing, and we do a lot of tech updates. And then we have Bad Decisions Solutions. Then we deliver immersive experiences. We created recently a Fortnite map for, can we say the client name?
Sure.
I think we can say the client name. For Dubai Police. We are creating immersive experiences, 3D immersive experience for clients here in UAE. We are now in Dubai, and in Canada as well.
Wonderful. one of the cool ideas I had, if you're open to it, is
Okay.
we should do a video together. Like we should do a proper CGI video together. Because I know you guys
Yeah.
are great at Unreal Engine. We have a good team as well. We can collab and do like 3 or 4 crazy videos.
Let's do it.
I think that's a fantastic idea. I honestly believe that we can do something really sick together because what you guys are creating is awesome. We work a lot behind the scenes, like you said, when it comes to Unreal Engine, but also Blender, because you did use the word Blender earlier on. I do have to mention our team is Blender Unreal Engine. We do explore other software as well. We do touch Houdini a little bit, but Houdini is pretty damn complex. But when it comes to the business side of things, I mean, me and Farah were discussing this. The beauty about Unreal Engine is that it can be used for so many different worlds, right? You can talk about
So
real
many
estate.
industries, yeah.
It's useful. You're talking about game dev. It's useful. Fashion, because it's real time. Events, because it's real time. So many different industries are using Unreal Engine, and I can see that for the foreseeable future. Again, I don't know how AI will change things in 10 years time, but at least for the next few years, I know Unreal is going to be the king when it comes to a lot of different industries. And so that's been our main focus. We do work with a lot of clients. Most of them use our Unreal Engine services, but at the same time, the reason why we were discussing content with you is because understanding social media is not easy. I mean, everybody can make videos, but like you said, there's taste to it, but there's also skills of understanding the trends and what people will watch and listen to. So a lot of the times in the clients we worked with, we do offer social media services as well, because naturally they will see the content that we create and they're asking us, hey, why don't you guys create content for us? We're like, well, we never thought of ourselves as a social media agency, but I guess we can do it better than most people that you can work with.
Actually, the funny story is the first time that it happened, we were delivering our normal services. And the client asked us, why don't you guys do social media? Your social media is bigger than our social media agency. You guys should do it. And
their social media agency had 2,000 followers, and we had like over 100K. So they said, why don't you guys become a social media agency? We said that was not our goal, but we can do it. I mean, if you guys want us to do it
together.
Let's give it a try. And we did, and our video performed much better than their own social media agency. So we do offer that service as well. It is really fun. I mean, understanding the psychology behind social media is essentially understanding the psychology of people, the overall psyche of society at a certain point in time.
That's
so that's
why
always been.
That's why I read so much. That's why I read so much.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. That's why I understood what you said about reading books, because if you understand the psychology of people, you will understand what works on social media. Why are people watching TikTok at a certain point in time?
It also extends to business.
Exactly.
It also extends to business. What people buy, it's also related.
Yes. I mean, it's quite important understanding the psychology of humans, because we're fucking dealing with them every fucking day.
We should do a video on that.
Yes.
If you want, we can do a really cool CGI video on this. You let me know how we should do it. Happy to, try and experiment. If it works, that's awesome. We should make a series.
I think we have to come up with a bunch of different ideas and then see which ones are the most interesting to all of us, and then see how we would produce those ideas to be something unique, something different that one of our teams couldn't do on their own. We'll have to work together to collaborate to create that. And I think that video will be fucking awesome.
Lovely. I'm excited to hear your ideas. Like, my inbox is open and you have access.
I freaking love that, man. Dude, thank you so much. I would sit down with Farhad and our team, and we would definitely go over some ideas with you. And I guess for everybody watching and listening right now, they probably should be aware that some cool video or more cool videos are going to drop between our channels.
Awesome.
I love it, man. Varun, so I got to ask you, was this a bad decision? Because, I mean, you did mention it in the beginning. I got to ask you.
I mean, not really. I think, it was a good decision, but, I was joking about the intro. Yeah, you need something that kept retention up for the intro, so I said bad decisions.
Amazing.
But yeah, this was awesome. This was fun. We got to go just the right level of technical for the audience watching. And yeah, you guys are great hosts.
Thank you so much, man. That means a lot. And when you're in Dubai next time, we're definitely meeting up.
Done.
I love it. Varun, thank you so much. And for everybody watching and listening as well, you guys are amazing. We will see you guys on the next episode. Until then, ciao.